Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Good evening. How are you guys?
Doing good. Good evening, Sahil. Yeah.
Hello. Good evening, Aswad.
Good evening, Sahil.
Hi all. How is the day going? Hey Krishna. Krishna, you're on mute if you're saying something. Hey Madhur. Hey Chaitanya. Vivek. I see a lot of my
Hey,
previous name.
Sahil, after a long time.
Yeah, how are you, Vivek?
I'm good. After DBT, this is a meeting here, right?
Yeah, I still remember you. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Nice. Good to know. Good to catch up again.
Yep.
Hi Sangya, Sahiti, Vaishnavi. Hope everyone is fine. How was the weekend going? Any plans for the rest of the day or no?
Weekend is fine going on. Today I have production deployment, so I'm busy with
Oh,
that.
so Saturday is working?
Yeah. We have a deployment.
Don't tell your company name, otherwise no one is going to join that. Cool. So maybe what I will do is I'll wait for a couple of 1 or 2 more minutes and then we'll start the session for today, right? Meanwhile, I'll admit whoever is in the waiting room and maybe I'll try to remute you all. So
So, Sahil, you are
I'll
in India, right?
right now I'm in India. Yes, you're right.
Oh,
So guys, I'm going to mute you all. After the session is done, I'll unmute yourself, all of you again, right? So we can have a catch up. So just so that we don't derail from the session. Hey Aparna, hey Param, hey Siva, Sangya, Vaishnavi. Cool. So it's 6:02. Maybe I'll do one thing. I will start presenting and then we'll begin the session. Okay. Okay, so before I begin, I'll need at least a single affirmation in the chat that you can see me, you can see the screen which I'm presenting, and you can also hear me. Can I get a one single yes in the chat? Yes, perfect. Now the logistics part, I'll start the recording. It's already started, so should be fine. I'll admit the guys again. Okay. Cool. So, guys, welcome all. Welcome all to the session, and thanks for giving me time on the weekends. I know it's tough. We get only 1 or 2 days to enjoy, and then still you are here trying to learn something new. So I really appreciate the zeal you guys have. Okay. Now, for the session for the today, I hope you all know the topic which we are going to discuss. The topic is the modern data tech stack, which we all know. And some of you I know are non or like not from technical background. Okay, so I'll try to cater you guys also. It's not going to be very tech heavy, but I'll try to tell you the patterns which are followed in the industry till now, and how the patterns are breaking every day and then, right? So how the modern data tech stack currently exists and how the pattern which are coming in the market are going to erase it. That's going to be the overall notion of the session. So first, before starting to the session, I'll give you a brief introduction about myself. I'll open a Notion doc. So give me 1 second. This should work. Yes. So yeah, I know you are like almost all of you are my previous cohort students or are either from the Growth Skills or from the Data Discourse. But yeah, in case you do not know me, my name is Sahil Chaudhary. I'm based out of India, Jammu and Kashmir. Currently, I'm working since 2016. I'm working from here only from the home. I have close to 5 years of experience. Total number of experience that I hold is very less, but yeah, the number of opportunities that I had and the interesting problem statement that I have worked upon, it's like far more than the 5 years of experience that could account for. Okay, so that's me. Currently, my 9 to 5 is I'm working as a senior manager of analytics in Sigma Analytics. I'm also innovation lead here, right? So I have to keep up with all the technical enhancements, involvements, or the innovations that is happening in the world. I keep up with that. Give me a second. Some people are waiting in the waiting room, so maybe I'll admit them. Yes. So yeah, that's about me. I'll drop the links and the notes, whichever is relevant for you all in the chat. I'll also send you an email after the class is done. So you don't need to write anything while I'm just teaching you guys. So that's one point. Apart from 9 to 5, I keep on doing some hustle, some side gigs, and those are the reason that you guys know me also, right? So for example, I'm widely in the ed tech, right? So I have close to 300 plus hours of content, mostly revolving around BI, analytics, data world, right? So I have courses around DBT, Fabric, Power BI, Tableau, Data Architect, those kind of stuff, right? I also do mentorships. I'm top 1% mentor on the top mate. I do keep on speaking on the public events, right? I was a speaker for Google for DevFest 2025 also, 2024 also. I speak in the Microsoft conferences also. I was a speaker for the 2025, and this year also I'm speaking in the sessions. Google, Salesforce, Tableau, think of any tool. I have most of the certifications, so I know what I teach and I know what I preach also. And since I work in corporate, I have experience of working some enterprise level solutions for my clients, for my customers. And yeah, I'm official Databricks, Snowflake, Fabric, Azure partner also, right? So if you have any concern about almost any other data tool which you are working on, so you can ping me. I could be a reliable guy for you to answer the questions. Okay, so I'll admit few of the other folks also. Perfect. So now since I hope you guys know me, if you have any questions during the session, what I'll do is I won't let you guys unmute yourself because that might derail the session, right? So once I'll just tell you what we are going to cover for the class. Once the class is done, then I'll unmute you guys and then you can have a conversation with me, right? If you're not comfortable with that also, maybe after the session is done, I have dropped my LinkedIn also, right? I'll send you the email of this specific links also of the notes. This links will be having my specific LinkedIn also. So we can have a conversation offline also. Okay, so I hope we are good here. Now coming to the topic. The modern data tech stack is over. What's next, right? And this is not a clickbait, okay? I do not like clickbaits. I don't never use them in the posts also and in the sessions also, right? And I'm going to prove you guys that what's happening in the industry will also lead to the collapse of modern data tech stack, right? But before double pointing on the topic, I'll just spend few minutes to tell you what exactly is modern data tech stack, right? So to organize the entire session or to tell you what exactly modern data tech stack is, I have three acronyms, okay? I'll just write that. These are not existing in the books, so I just invented them and just bear with me. I'll try to explain you guys what does this mean also. So in the entire data era, right? So we have been in the data world since 30, 40 years, right? I'll name three eras. One is data 1.0, and I'll tell you what was present in this era also. So I hope you guys have heard about a word called ETL, right? I'll quickly draw three boxes and try to tell you what were the tools which existed and why they existed. Okay. And then of course that was killed by some newer design paradigms. So if I just write this up, I will write extract, transform, just a second, and load, right? So I'm talking about decades ago, right? There was a process called ETL. What exactly was ETL? So we used to have the entire data from operational systems, right? How do you get data in a company? Generally, there will be some operational websites or some operational ERP systems or CRM systems. Those systems are called OLTP systems, right? What is OLTP? That's transactional systems, right? You just insert the data into OLTP systems. OLTP systems are very write friendly, means, and when you want to write a data very fast into your applications, OLTP system are a way to go, right? So when data 1.0 was there, ETL was a paradigm, right? You used to extract the data from OLTP systems. You should transform the data because you always need to clean some data and then you used to load the data, right? If I have to tag few of the tools which were used during that era also, I'll do that as well, right? Give me just 1 second. I'll admit few of the folks. Perfect. So when ETL was there, right? If you can just put some names in the chat also, I'll appreciate that. But maybe I'll try to tag few names here, right? And this system, by the way, this design paradigm is legacy, right? We don't use it anymore. But just to give you a glimpse of why it collapsed, right? So if in case you know, there was a tool called Informatica, right? Let me this. And if you are a veteran in the data industry, you know that before Power BI, there used to be a software called SSIS, right? Before data flows, there was a system called SSIS, right? Those were the tools, those were used in this era, right? I'm talking about 30, 40 years before the industry, right? Informatica, by the way, billion-dollar company. Previously, they used to have a software called Power Center. Power Center was on-premise ETL tool, right? Also, one brief introduction about this era, like this was very monolithic era. Like one tool was doing almost everything, right? This is also called vertical design patterns, right? That they were not a separate tool dedicated for some specific operations. Like existed that one tool can do the entire ETL pattern, right? So, for example, Informatica used to extract the data also. You used to transform the data also. You used to clean the data also, and they had the power to create reports also. So there was monolithic design structures. Okay. For the transformation, if you talk about like what were the tools used, so if you know what is a stored procedure, right? Generally, whatever database or OLTP system you used to use, you used to write stored procedure in that, right? Stored procedure were very big during that era. And then you used to load the system, data into a system, right? That usually you take the data from OLTP systems, you transform the data, and you put the data into OLAP systems, right? What is OLAP system? OLAP is analytical systems, right? Because whenever you're doing any pipelining, right, this is a pipeline. You take the data and you have to put it somewhere. Why do you create pipelines? You generally create pipelines because you have to do analysis on top of it, right? Because there is no fun in just collecting the data. You always have to take the data and build some reports on top of it, right? So end product of any pipeline is always going to be the BI tool, right? Back in the days, BI tools were, let's say, SAP BO. That was very famous back in the days, and Cognos was also very popular, right? They used to give you features called paginated reports, right? So that you take the data, you transform it, you extract it, you load it, and you create a report. And all of these things used to happen with only one or two tools, right? So monolithic structures, vertical integration, no, not a lot of tools. And why this pattern was followed, why the data was first extracted and then transformed and then loaded to the warehouses, the reason was back in the days, the cost of compute and the cost of storage was very expensive. Okay. So instead of just extracting your entire data from OLTP systems and putting it or dumping it into your warehouse, you call it OLAP system. You can't do that because then you are just putting everything into your warehouse and space was expensive. Cost of compute was expensive, right? I can show you some charts also. So if I go here and show you back in the days what was the charge of compute and the storage. So historical cost of compute. And if I show you a few of the charts, I think this one is a one which I have used. Again, if in case you do not know this website, it's a very detailed website which keep on like publishing very neat and niche articles about the data world. So this is the chart which I'm showing you. Okay, see this chart. If I take this snip and put it in the file, just to zoom it a bit, say this. When I'm saying that cost and compute of warehouses and data was expensive, this is the chart which will double proof my point which I'm saying, right? Say this, for example, this was the era when ETL paradigm was followed, right? Back in 1970s and 60s. These are the cost of flash memory, solid state, and disk. To get 1 TB of a disk, you used to pay 10 billions of dollars, right? This was the expense of maintaining a warehouse. If cost of compute and storage is this much, if it's in billions, you cannot put, and this is where the cost relies, right? It always relies on the warehousing, and this is a warehouse cost. If cost is this much, you cannot put garbage data into your warehouses, right? That's why transformation was always done before putting the data. So that, for example, if you're getting, let's say, 100 rows of data, we'll clean it. And if you only need, let's say, 2026 data, for example, you will just take out of 100, you will take 10 rows of data and put it into the warehouse, right? Give me just 1 second. I will let few of the other folks join as well. Perfect. So yeah, this was the 1970s, 1960s era of ETL, that you always clean your data first before putting the data into your systems because everything is expensive, right? But after that, data 2.0 era came, and I'll also tell you why that era came. Okay. So if I take this and copy it on the right side. I know a lot of you would be already aware of this error, right? This is error of ELT, right? So what is ELT? If I take the copies here and just move this piece here and put the diagrams here. So there were few problems with the ETL. What is the problem, right? Let's say I'm already doing the cleaning of my data. That means I'm already filtering my data before putting it into the warehouse. The problem is, what if in the future you need that data? The data is gone. That is not present in your warehouse, right? That was first problem. Second problem also was in this 1960s and 70s era, the ETL paradigm when it was followed, the compute and cost, it was coupled together. That means if I'm purchasing a warehouse, by the way, in that era, the warehouses which were famous were Oracle and Teradata, right? If you want to increase your storage, you also have to increase your compute. And let's say this also means, by the way, if let's say you have a workflow set up in your company and your company has a workflow that let's say you don't need your storage a lot, storage is very less. Let's say you're just using 1 GBs of data, but your compute goes up in some specific period of time that you get a peak in your compute. If you want to increase the compute, your storage is still 10 GBs, let's say. You will need to pay for the storage also because storage and compute were coupled together, right? This was a massive problem back in the days. And this problem was solved when we jumped to the data 2.0, which was the ALT era, right? First, what was ALT era? ALT era meant, hey, don't clean the data before loading it into the warehouses because why do you do that? You were doing that in the day back in the days because you wanted to save cost, right? But with time, the cost of compute and cost of storage kept reducing, right? I will show you the same chart here. See this chart. This was 1970s, right? Right now we are here, 2023, again, 2026, but I'm taking you 3 years back, right? The cost of storage and compute has declined drastically. In the matter of storage also, in the matter of disk also, compute also. Everything has dropped down to pennies nowadays, right? If you want me to give you example how cheap today the cost of metal and RAM and ROM is, right? There's a very neat website that helps you compare the cost. So if I go here and tell you the website, which is, if I remember, yes, this is the one, right? Great website to know what is the cost across the clouds, right? So I'll show you the cost of storage, for example, in today's world. Actually, for 1 TB, okay, for 1 TB of storage, you can get it in $5 per month, right? If I convert it to INR, right? I think it's 96, right? So you just need to pay 500 bucks, 500 rupees to get 1 TB of a storage. So storage has gone decreased drastically. And the obvious reason, by the way, if you want to know why the storage has been decreasing, the cost of compute has been decreasing, there's a physics law which tells you that, hey, for every 4 years, the cost and storage, I think it's called, if I'm not wrong, wait, I can't recall the name right now, but there's a physics law which said that, I think it's Faraday's law, which says that within every 4 years, the number of transistors you can fit in a chip will increase drastically. And because if you can fit more transistor into same space, you can sell it in a less cheaper way, right? So that's the reason that the cost has been decreasing. But what has been the impact of reducing cost on your data tech stack? The impact is if you know the cost has gone drastically lower, right? Why do you need to transform your data first? You directly extract the data from your OLTP system, you load it into your warehouse. And once it is loaded, you can do the transformation later on, right? So if here it was OLTP system, that means you are taking the data from your databases, you are loading it directly into your warehouses, right? They are very closely related. You are not doing any cleaning apart from just ingesting the data, right? So that's the EL process. Once the data is present inside your data warehouse, then you do the transformation because it makes sense. Why do you need to clean data first? Now, few of the comparison points between the ETL and ELT. By the way, this ELT is called modern data tech stack. We also call it MDS, right? I'll just take a quick pause to let few other folks in. Perfect. So here we go. Yeah. So there have been pros and cons of both these design patterns of design pattern 1.0, where it was ETL, and the design pattern 2.0, which was ELT, right? The good things about ETL was you always get to see neat and clean data in your warehouse, right? And back in the days, there were very dedicated jobs. There was a job of maybe database developer who was just getting the data into your databases. There was a dedicated job for data engineers who were just cleaning and doing the transformation here. There were a dedicated job for the BI players, right? That analyst will only build a report. Back in the days when ETL was followed, it was easy for a BI developer or a data analyst to survive with just Tableau, Power BI, and SQL because the data was already cleaned. He just need to point his report into warehouse. That warehouse is already having clean data. He will just point the report and build the report. So ETL era, all the rules were very specifically determined that, hey, my DBA guy will do my database stuff, my data engineer will do the transformation, and my reporting will be done by a BI person, right? But when ELT happened, the jobs also shifted. Okay, because now I am saying you that I'm not doing the transformation of my data before loading it into the warehouse. That means the warehouse is going to have unclean data. If unclean data is present, who is going to clean the data in a warehouse? The question answer could be either data engineer will clean the data in the warehouse or a data analyst will clean the data in the data warehouse. But generally in data warehouse, the language which is followed is SQL, and analysts also used to know SQL. And when ELT came into the picture, the job market also shifted, right? Previously, I was saying that, hey, if you're an analyst, don't just clean my data because cleaning was done by data engineers and they used to follow Python, right? But when ELT happened, I told you, hey, you can't just click your Tableau report to my data warehouse because my warehouse is having unclean data. You need to clean it first. And in warehouse, the only predominant language was SQL. Then a new job was introduced, which was analytics engineers, right? DBT introduced this job, right? And DBT was the product, by the way. DBT was the company which was very pro ELT. And there was that was the company who said that, hey, why do you even do ETL, right? Just load the data and let us do the cleaning right in front of your warehouses only, right? So in data 2.0, ELT came into the market, right? And another specific thing which happened was I told you guys when ETL was happening 1970s, 1960s, it was a monolithic structure. That means every single operation was happening by one or two companies. Either IBM was doing it or SAP was doing it, for example. When data 2.0 happened, people say, hey, the data, entire data ecosystem or data, entire problem of getting a data and finding insights is a complicated problem. Why do you want to have very niche players do the entire stuff? So modern data tech stack told the industry that, hey, let's split the entire ecosystem into multiple smaller pieces, right? And when the multiple smaller pieces came, then the niche players in the data industry came. For example, if I have to tell you guys what I am saying, so if I have to write few of the pointers here, so MDS means modern data tech stack. And the why it came was very obvious because the cost of compute and storage was going down. Then, of course, doesn't make any sense to transform the data beforehand. Then everything was going into the systems, right? When everything went into the systems, the system of a warehouse became complicated. Then niche players started coming into the picture that, hey, you can't just build the report directly by pointing to the warehouse. You need certain specific tools for that, right? So a specific tool came for extraction part. We have Fivetran, for example. A specific tool came for warehousing. We got to know about Snowflake. We got to know about Databricks, right? What was the pitch of Snowflake and Databricks? They also solved one of the problem which was in data 1.0. 1.0 had compute and storage coupled together. But when Snowflake came into the market, right, it just completely wiped out the on-premise era, right? Data 1.0 ETL was all on-premise. You had to just get the server into your rooms and do the entire processing. When 2.0 came, companies like Snowflake and Databricks came and they said, hey, you don't need on-premise databases, on-premise data platforms. Just purchase my cloud platform. I'll decouple your storage, I'll decouple your compute. And that's how Snowflake works, right? It tells you you do not need on-premise, I am cloud system. Plus, if you want to tomorrow, let's say today you have just two customers, you pay for two customers. There's a thing called virtual warehouses, right? You pay for one virtual warehouse, maybe take a small warehouse. It takes you 2 minutes to configure a virtual warehouse, right? So compute was decoupled, right? Snowflake told you that, hey, store your data in Azure, store your data in GCP. I don't care. Just let me do the compute. How was compute done? Compute was done with the help of virtual warehouses, the cloud warehouses, right? If tomorrow the number of people or the number of traffic into your products will increase, they said, hey, just click one or two buttons, your compute will increase, right? So for every single tool, for every single operation, a new vendor came into the market, right? For I just told you that for the BI world, for example, we had Power BI, we have Tableau, and we have Google also jumped into the picture, right? They introduced something called LookML or the Looker, right? Or Data Studio also, same thing. So this was the era of 1980s, 1990s till the 2005, 10, 15, something you can say, right? It was going all cool, but then it started having some problems. The problems were, if I show you any diagram of ecosystem which is currently present in a data world, it's humongous. Okay. I'll give you few examples, for example. So if I show you modern data, just a second. Stack, I'll show you how many tools exist in today's world. Okay. So maybe I will open some diagram from here. Yes. This is a very infamous diagram, by the way. Okay. So if I go here, these are the number of tools which exist in today's world. And the only reason they exist is because modern data tech stack told that, hey, the data problem is too complex. Let's have some niche players and let's just create different components for different problem statements. And we'll be niche player and solve each part of the problem statement, right? But that introduced this big of a ecosystem, right? For infrastructure, you have different player. For analytics, you have different player. For ML part, AI part, right? Every single component of a data ecosystem had too much of a tool to choose from. Now it's very overwhelming for companies to maintain, to cherry pick, and to choose the tools from these specific vendors, right? So modern data tech stack, quote unquote, was attempt to decompose tech, right? From a single tech, with single vendors, earlier they were IBM or SAP, for example, into multiple platforms that will fit their problem statement, right? And the current state, which I already told you, right? It's humongous. Every single operation, every single company had to do, they had a dedicated software for that. And it's not scalable. I'll tell you why it's not scalable as well. Okay. But if I jump back, I hope you start realizing that there was a problem with ETL data 1.0, which was, hey, I have compute and storage coupled together. I can't work with that, right? Then 2.0 came. 1.0 was on-premise era. 2.0 was cloud era. Then MDS came. MDS means modern data tech stack. And they told, hey, man, just take me for each specific problem, pick a tool for that. The problem was there are too many tools now, right? Also, one more thing. This modern data tech stack 2.0, right, is the current data architecture in almost every company. Okay. And how this architecture works, by the way, the center of this entire architecture is the warehouse, right? You have your data. So storage, if I have to write it here, is the central part of your ecosystem. Storage remains centralized piece of your architecture. And then you will have few components on the left of a storage. You will have few components on the right of the storage, right? For example, on the left of the storage, you will need to have the ingestion pipelines, right? You will have pipelines to get the data from the OLTP system to the data warehouses, correct? On the right side of the storage, because we have multiple vendors now, there are multiple components of the problem statement. On the right side, what do you do with the storage? Storage means data. What do you do with the data? To provide meaning to your data, you will have a different software. To add a metadata to your data, you will have a different software, and everything goes here. So for example, you will need to add the metadata here. You will need to have a reporting here. So that's BI part. You need to do the cataloging of your data. So that's the cataloging part. You need to add some context, business context to the data. That's a documentation. We have tools called Confluent. Cataloging tool exists already, right? So we have some documentation and context tools. And you have some, because you need to run the operations parallelly multiple times in a day and a year, you have some orchestration tools also, right? Right? So if you see this, central part of the modern data tech stack was storage. Before that, we had pipelines. So maybe I should write it here. And after that, we have multiple components, right? One for the metadata, one for cataloging, one for discoverability. I can keep on increasing the platforms, right? The problem was each of this specific niche problem was solved by different tool and different vendor. And that's why the entire mega big infographic, which I was just showing you, was present, right? Give me 1 second. I'll just let few of the folks in. So let them in from here. Okay, so let me check. Cool. So yes, the current state of modern data tech stack, a lot of tools exist and the problems and the complexity are humongous, right? What is the complexity? When let's say I work as an organization, I'll need to do different licensing for each tool. That means a different vendor for metadata management, different vendor for warehouse, different vendor for OLTP system, different vendor for CI/CD, different vendor for context management, different vendor for maybe BI tools also, right? For each vendor, I'll need different licensing. I'll need to play with, like, just follow their access management also. The governance of each player will be different, right? Think of any single operation you have to do in a data product, you will need to do n number of times. Why? Because we have different products for the different problem statements. Right? It's not suitable to integrate multiple products into single centralized location. And this problem was not there till few years back when AI came into the picture. But this problem is becoming very humongous nowadays because everyone is trying to use AI to get answers. But if there are different tools and each tool is having specific part of your data, how will you get an answer from? People thought, hey, maybe I'll connect my BI tool to my AI agent. But can you do that? If you connect your BI tool to the maybe AI agent, right? If some pipeline is not written in the BI tool, your agent will not be able to answer that. Right? Just few of the example I'm telling you, right? So with the incoming flux of NLP or LLMs era, this entire design pattern started failing. And this is happening right now. Okay. Now I'll start explaining you data 3.0. This term doesn't exist in the world. Okay, you can Google it. I just made it up, but the design pattern is moving towards here. Okay. If I have to tell you what exactly is happening in today's market and what you will see in the future years also. Again, all these are my assumptions, my hot takes, but I'll give you proofs that why this could be the case. Okay, so maybe I'll go here and 3.0. Just a second. Okay, now when I talked about ETL and then we said that, hey, ETL was bad, we moved to ELT. Now data 3.0 was saying ELT is also bad. And now, because see, the problem, one of the other problem with ELT is the time it takes to get answers from your data is humongous because you have to go through all these processes, right? If my business analyst, for example, wants some specific answer, he'll need to play with 10 different tools. There will be need of separate person who will build the pipeline, who will validate it. There will be a separate person who will write a ML agent. If you want to predict something, there will be need of certain specific data analyst who will build a report, and then you will get your answer. The data to insight, because everyone wants insight, right? Is the journey of data from left is pipeline or OLTP system to right is the business or the reporting or analytics is way longer. And now people are trying to reduce this entire journey of a data from left to right. That means the data 3.0, which is coming nowadays in the market, and every company is trying to follow this pattern. Okay. If I take these steps, means if I take extract, if I take load, and if I take transform, nowadays what is happening is, or where the world or the industry is moving is, people are saying we don't need to do load, we don't need to transform. There will be just extraction. What do we mean by that? They're eliminating the movement of data itself. Like earlier in modern data tech, you're moving the data from OLTP to warehouse to data lake. There exists a data lake house also, right? And then you get the data to the semantic data model and then to report. Now we are saying we don't need to move the data. Just keep the data at one centralized position. Okay. What is that one centralized position? That is the bet every company is saying that, hey, we have that one centralized place. Other companies saying we have that one centralized place. Okay. But nowadays, ETL integrations between operational databases and the BI tools is diminishing. No one wants to follow that paradigm. Right? No one wants to create pipeline to move the data from one place to another multiple times a day, because nowadays every data engineer is less focusing on solving the problem, but more focusing on just fixing the pipelines that, hey, my number is not matching. Hey, my data is not moving. Or maybe, hey, some source changed my API and I have to rebuild my APIs for that. I have to rebuild my pipelines for that, right? These were the problems that data 3.0 is saying you don't need to do that. The architecture which is coming is lake base. Okay, Databricks is the only company who is betting now very hugely, but almost every company is paying their bets on this. Right? For example, Microsoft also introduced something called Fabric. Right? Databricks launched something called LTAP. Right? What they're saying again, it's very technical. We have some future classes planned for that also. What is the LTAP? How does this work? But they're saying don't copy your data from one place to another. Don't copy your data from OLTP system to OLAP system. Just move your data once into OLTP system. Our platform, quote unquote, the platform of Microsoft, quote unquote, the platform of Databricks, they will just do everything in the backend. That, by the way, just one pointer on just to deviate you from here, right? Why do we move the data from OLTP to OLAP? The only reason is OLTP system are write friendly, right? I won't go into the technicals because this is like very generic class. But you generally move the data, copy the data from OLTP to OLAP is because OLAPs are read friendly, right? That's how the way that data is structured within the disk. But now Databricks is saying, Microsoft is saying, hey, we'll make your OLTP systems only read friendly. That means you don't need to build a separate pipeline to move the data to OLAP system so that you can maybe do the analytics on top of it, right? Now people are saying, Microsoft is saying, Databricks is saying, we'll let you do the analytics on top of your OLTP system. If that is possible, all the loading will be reduced, all the transformation will be reduced. The T part, by the way, these companies are saying, by the way, I'm not saying, the transformation will be done by agents. And that's why every tool is coming up with the agent today and tomorrow. Right? They're saying you don't need to build a pipeline because we already have a product, we have your data. Why do you need to do the transformation, right? Why do you need to build the Mendelian and the Kimball architecture? They're saying we'll do it, right? And this LTAP architecture, by the way, this came Databricks launched this, I think 3 to 4 weeks back. It's not even GA, by the way, but the concept has been introduced. The white paper has been written that, hey, we are going to follow the LTAP a lot, right? Agents will query the governed datasets because datasets is already going to be there. The old OLTP datasets are already going to be there in the platforms. Then they're saying, hey, why do you need to build the pipeline for that? We'll make sure that the data, wherever it is residing, if it's OLTP system, it will be read friendly also. Okay. With this paradigm that, hey, you don't need to copy your data again and again. This is first design paradigm that is happening. Every company is introducing. For example, I told you about Databricks. Databricks is betting on, hey, you don't need to replicate the data. Microsoft is betting on Fabric. What is a Fabric, right? Fabric, I hope a lot of you would have heard or used also, but in one liner or two lines, right? Fabric is a platform which Microsoft introduced, and they told you, hey, previously you used to have different vendor for different tools, right? The problem of MDS, one tool for ingestion, one tool for warehousing, one tool for database, one tool for BI, one tool for ML. Fabric came and said, hey, you don't need all that. Just purchase one single license of Fabric, one single compute of Fabric, and you're good to go. I'll give you everything, right? If I have to show you a like very smooth journey which Microsoft is also following, right? To prove my claim that, hey, everything is going to consolidate into a single vendor system. I'll show you one diagram. If I go here and show you this. This is the evolution history of Microsoft. And this I can paint for every single data platform which is happening. And Databricks is also following the same pattern, right? in the x-axis I have dates, and then in the y-axis we have some products, right? The products which Microsoft introduced at that specific time. Back in the days, 1988, they introduced SQL Server. Again, different versions came, but that was OLTP system. Right? They introduced Excel also. Excel then transformed into the paginated reports and Power Query. Everything was popped on top of that, right? When Microsoft came again, previously that was just a database system. Then they introduced SharePoint. That versions of the SQL servers kept on increasing, and then they also introduced cloud, because everything before cloud was like on-premise, right? And then they introduced cloud, and they had a separate set for reporting, which was Power BI. They have separate set for warehousing, which was Azure Synapse, and they have different components in Azure also, right? One for ETL, one for reporting, one for ingestion, one for maintenance, one for access. Then came the era of cloud singularity, which is the post data 2.0 era. Cloud singularity or the vendor singularity is, which is what they followed Fabric also, right? They said, hey, just purchase one single platform and you don't need to do anything else, right? That means every single tool which existed here till here previously you used to have different license, different software for that, different UI for that also, right? And if there's a one company, let's say Microsoft, who is having different UI for different tools, it's also a very steep learning curve for the person who is going to use that product also, right? That's also hindrance to the adoption of that product. That was also one of the point that everyone thought, and the world leads to a point that, hey, we'll say we'll have a singular product that will cater your all your data ecosystem requirements, right? That's why we have Fabric, right? Everything which is in Fabric, by the way, nothing is new. Microsoft already had all the products. They just merged them into one single UI. They centralized the UI. Nowadays, if you go to Fabric UI, right, you will see it's just one window. Power BI opens in that. Power BI doesn't fully works, by the way. It's just 90, I think 90% of the features are available, but still there are a lot of things which are not available in the Fabric version of Power BI. But almost every single thing, you can do ETL, you can create database, you can create warehouse, you can create pipelines, DevOps, CI/CD, ML, lineage, observability. You tell me every component of your data ecosystem, everything you can do under a single vendor with a single license. Just a second, I'll need to onboard someone. Yes. Okay. So just a pointer that once you have Fabric, right? Fabric is also moving in that era also, that you won't need to write specific pipelines to move your data. Because when singularity happens, right? When everyone is saying that use my product for every single operation of your data, that happens in the backend through a common data format. What do I mean by that? If, for example, how Fabric works, by the way, is Fabric. If Fabric is saying that you will have ETL tool, you will have, let's say, database, you will have data warehouse, you will have a report, you will have some observability, okay, you will have some agents. If Microsoft Fabric is saying that you need just one tool, one license to work, and if you do any operation, and if you create anything in this tool, for example, this will work in other tools also. This happens when you follow one single format of your data. Okay. So the format which Microsoft is double tapping on going heavy is OneLake, right? Microsoft introduced one centralized format of your data, and they told you, hey, use any of the tool which exists in the world, in the Microsoft world. The output of that data can be in this format, OneLake. And since there is one centralized format, then you can plug and play different tools on top of it. And once the companies start moving to OneLake, right? Maybe again, right now Fabric is not that well adopted also. People use it mostly for the Power BI stuff, and because they are like decommissioning the Power BI premium capacities, and that's why people are moving to Fabric. But no one right now, not a lot of companies use Fabric for ETL or the data warehousing, for example, right? But once people start moving to one lake, for example, there is no need to purchase different vendors. And this gives them flexibility of reducing the entire ETL or ELT paradigm, right? Because entire data is in one single format. And why do we even need a human intervention for that, right? This is the design pattern which Fabric is following. This is the design pattern which Database is following, right? And the bet is every single data platform which existed here in modern data stack, right? I told you before this era, there were different components and we had n number of companies solving very niche problems. Now what is happening is everyone is consolidating into one single product. That means within last year also, I'll give you proofs also what's happening, okay? But every single platform is trying to eat their adjusting layer, because I told you here what's happening, right? Loading and transformation is going to maybe merge into extraction part only. If you see the acquisition which have been happening in the world in last 1 year, right? Every single tool is trying to get something which earlier they were not solving. But now because they just want to become a singular product to solve most of the data problems, because that's how the world is moving, right? They give you proof for that also. They'll need the softwares for that. I can take any example, right? Take the example of data sources, for example. IBM acquired, and I'll give you examples of maybe last 1 or 2 years, okay? Nothing old acquisition, for example. IBM acquired Confluent also. I think they acquired it in this year only, right? IBM was never supposed to do ETL, but they're acquiring tool because again, singularity, quote unquote, right? Salesforce was a CRM, right? Was a ERP. They acquired Informatica, which was a transformation tool. No need, but because they know that the era is going to be NLP AI era, and only that vendor is going to survive who can give them end-to-end observability of the data, right? So that's why tool consolidation, this is like one hot take which I posted on my LinkedIn also. Tool consolidation is happening a lot in the industry, and this will keep happening. IBM acquired Confluent, Salesforce acquired Informatica. A lot of things happened in data sources. In the ETL world also, right? Fivetran, I hope you know Fivetran, right? $1 billion company. In last 1 year, they acquired Consensus. I think in last May they acquired SQL Mesh, they acquired DBT also. Right? Why did they acquire? Because back in the days, Fivetran was a click and drop tool, right? You used to click to do any operation, but they already realized that click and drop tools are going to just die out within a few years. I'll tell you why also. But because they realized it very soon, then they started purchasing and acquiring companies which are not click and drop tools, right? They acquired the companies who were doing their work only, but with the help of code. That's why DBT Lab got acquired. Same acquisitions happening in data warehousing world also, right? Databricks and Snowflake have acquired more than 10 companies in the last 1 year. Databricks and Snowflake both acquired OLTP companies also, right? Why would in the world a data warehousing company acquire OLTP system? No overlap, right? The only thing is consolidation is happening, and this is the world where the companies are moving also. Data Snowflake acquired Neon. I think Neon is a OLTP system. They acquired it for $1 billion. Databricks acquired Crunchy. Crunchy was another transactional system. They acquired it for 200 to 300 millions, I get. I can be wrong about the numbers. But this was one acquisition, right? That quote unquote every platform is trying to eat their adjusting layer. Warehousing is trying to eat transformation layer and the OLTP layer. BI is trying to eat transformation layer. BI is trying to eat the observability layer, right? This is happening, right? For example, Snowflake, right? I told you that they acquired OLTP system. They have acquired n number of tools. They acquired Observe, right? For observability, I think they paid $1 billion. So this part, that the mistake that happened during MDS era, that different tools for different section, right? Different tool for different problem statement. Now they are reversing it back. They are saying, hey, come back. Just one tool to do everything, right? So the Snowflake, I think acquired Star also. Star is a company who is very big for governance, right? That was acquired. Snowflake also acquired, I think, Geometry. That was for telemetry stuff. They are called also acquired AtScale. AtScale was a company which was very heavy on semantic layer, right? Snowflake has been on top of it, right? Last, I was just checking today only, they had 13 to 14 acquisition which happened this year, right? Even for Databricks, right? Databricks acquired Panther, I believe. Panther was a company who do the analytics. Databricks, when it came into the market, right? The only point which Databricks came was because they wanted to solve compute, and they want to make the big data without the hassle of doing the infrastructure management, right? Their whole singular selling point was, hey, we'll let you do the big data, but you won't need to, means you don't need to tolerate the pain of managing your data, managing your infrastructure, managing the computer. They said that, hey, just click on a button, we'll give you the clusters for the Spark, right? What Snowflake did for warehousing, Databricks did for the big data era, for Hadoop era, right? Database also acquired Quotient AI, for example. Quotient AI was a big company for the agents, for the AI agents. And I already told you, nowadays the transformation which is happening by the agents, right? So that's why they acquired that also. Database also quite tabular. In no single world, they are acquiring BI tool also. And now they have introduced Genie. Genie is doing the BI also. Database also introduced AI BI dashboards, means they are also tapping into the market of BI. And first, this has happened first time in the world that every year Gartner release a BI tool report. Okay, first time it has happened that a company came into the quadrant and it directly came into the visionary quadrant, and that was Databricks. Okay, they have this AI/BI dashboard, and since I told you, right, tool consolidation, everyone wants to eat the market of the adjacent layers, right? Now Databricks is trying very hard to eat the market of Microsoft Power BI, right? How? Previously, if you remember, Databricks used to have an option called semantic layer, and you can natively import the semantic layer directly in Power BI, right? So then Power BI Power BI just disabled that option that, hey, you can't build the semantic layer in Databricks. Why did they do that? Because they know that the data 3.0 era is going to be all semantic layer era. Whoever owns a semantic layer is going to win this game. That's why they already know that if people are going to build semantic layer in Databricks, why would someone even purchase a BI tool, right? That happened. Then Databricks introduced a feature called Genie and AI dashboard. And the first feature they introduced was they gave you one-click functionality to import your Power BI data model and report, and they will convert it to Databricks semantic model, Databricks semantic layer, Databricks dashboard, for example. So everything is happening toward tool consolidation. Right, I gave you few example of acquisition, right? I can keep giving you list and list for that. Even in the BI world, for example, previous BI world was tool heavy, click heavy, Tableau and Power BI, right? They were all, hey, click on this button, you will get this visual. Click on this button, you will get this visual. But nowadays, because market and industry is shifting toward chatbots, quote unquote, everyone wants a centralized UI to get answers. How will you do that? If you have a lot of buttons in your tool, how will agent come and click on a tool? That's why instead of having a GUI tool, means graphical user interface tool, companies are now moving to code first tools, right? Tableau has been introducing new formats to store their dashboards. Power BI has been introducing day in and day out to make their reports work in coding platforms also. PBIR format, PBIP format, right? Continuously they are releasing new and new features. The only purpose is they don't want to be GUI company. GUI companies are going to fail within 2 to 3 years, mark my word. Okay, everyone is saying it. Because you cannot, I have been building some solutions, right? You cannot integrate your agent to do a work and click on something. But if there was a code, if there was a JSON file, there was an XML file, I can very quickly tell my agent to go and extract something, right? Because let's say, give me a second. I'll create some file, let's say there was a Power BI, let's say I'll give you example of a Tableau report, right? Let's say this was a Tableau. Give me a second. Something is not right, but let me see. Mm, 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 My laptop sometimes doesn't work in my way, okay? So give me a second. I'll try to open it again. Yes. So what I'm trying to tell you is why GUI is bad, and every company nowadays is trying to shift from their GUI versions to non-GUI version. GUI is graphical user interface, okay? So if I give you any example, I'll open this dummy dashboard, right? How do you build a dashboard in Power BI or Tableau? You go to a new sheet, you drag few columns, it's a click, okay? And you drag some measures on top of it and you get a table, right? Or a chart, for example. Maybe I'll drag something else. You got a neat and clean table. Now, if you have to format this, you need to right click, go to some specific button, click here, do the formatting. Every single thing is a click heavy thing, right? Every BI tool is suffering from this. That all their design pattern which they have followed was happened or were built with the code first, GUI first design paradigm. But if you have this and if you ask Chat GPT to come and change your color of your Tableau report, if you want to build an agent to do that, your agent cannot come here, click on this, right click on this, click on edit, maybe do the formatting, click on right click on format, come here and do it. So these tools were built for the humans to do click and drop, but agent doesn't work like that. That's why these companies are now moving towards the code first artifacts. That means instead of having a report, again, report will render like this because this is how humans see the data. But report won't be built like this because again, transformation part I told you, right? It's going to be more or less by the agents. So agents need text form of artifacts, right? So instead of having the report look like this, there will be XML version of your report, there will be a JSON version of your report. And every agent is going to work with JSON because JSON and XML are far easier to work with. To give you example, right? I told you it's tough to click the buttons. Now think of it this way. If I had this report in XML format, okay, I will save this in some desktop. Let's say I'll name it 1 and I will go here and I'll tell you the benefits of XML, right? Or benefits of code first artifacts. Let's say this was your Tableau file. By the way, every BI tool writes their file in the format of code artifacts only. It's just that they make it very difficult to read them. So maybe I'll quickly unzip it. Zip and where is it? Wait. Give me a second. This was saved. Let me again. I think I messed it up. 11 desktop date added. I have this right. I will quickly make a copy so that I can show it to you how it works. Copy and paste. I have a copy. I'll make this TWBX, which was a report which you see in Tableau. You build it with the help of clicks and drops. You make it zip. You open this file. This will be nothing but a bunch of XMLs. The TWB file, which is the standard proprietary format of your Tableau, is nothing by the way but XML. Now, if I make it XML and if I open it in some BI tool or in some IDE, this is how your report looks like. Now, if I have a report like this, that means again there will be structure to this document, right? There are some document, there are some preferences, data sources are present, your actions are present, your worksheets are present, your charts are present, right? Now, if I give this file to my agent and if I tell him that, hey, wherever green color is used, make it red. It's just a matter of control, find and replace, right? I'll just search it in green, find it and replace it. That's why text artifacts are going to be very big in today's world and age. That's why Power BI is continuously releasing new and new features to make their tool look more code friendly tool. And same is happening with that Tableau also. Okay. So this was the one take that, hey, the tool consolidation is happening. The second take is the UI bloat that we have seen till now in these tools is going to diminish. What do we mean by that? That means every tool is going to have their code version of that product. But if everyone is going to have code version, they will need engineers who can work with them. That means if you are analyst today and you're very fine working with Power BI report, creating a Tableau report, for example, right? By clicking on UI, and if you do not know how the report works under the hood, it's going to be very tough for you in the future because the products are not going to look like the way they look today. Okay, so only person previously, by the way, it used to be happen that hey, you don't need to code a lot, right? Because everything was a click and drop. But design pattern, which is happening in today's day and age, the coding is going to be again the crown of every single engineer which is present in today's day and age. People argue that hey, I'll have agents only write the code, right? Agents can help you write the code. For example, there will be a Power BI agent that will maybe, for example, create a report for you. But how does that agent integrate with the tool? How does you write the agent? You will need to write the agent first, by the way. You cannot depend on one vendor's agent, right? For example, every single platform, by the way, has agent nowadays, right? Microsoft has an agent called Copilot. Salesforce has their Einstein, right? Einstein, I think, is moved renamed to uh, Tableau Next, for example, if I'm not wrong, right? Snowflake has their own agent. The problem with these agents, and the problem, by the way, why companies, organization, enterprises are not purchasing their quote unquote agents is because Snowflake agent can only talk with Snowflake data. Power BI agent can only talk with Power BI data. Tableau agent can only talk with Tableau agent data, right? That's why, again, same point. Consolidation is going to happen within a year, within 2 years, within 3 years. This is happening right now. Also, gave you a few examples of the acquisitions, also, right? If the agent can only talk with one tool or one piece of data, it's not going to work, right? That's why Microsoft is in very good shape nowadays. I'm not sure who gave them the idea of Fabric, but they were far ahead of the time because with Fabric, they have everything in their one single platform. And now because they have every single data in their ecosystem, it's far easy for them to build agents on top of it. Maybe they'll have, and they are, by the way, introducing a lot of features. Snowflake cannot tell a enterprise that, hey, come to us, purchase our agent, and this will help you answer a warehouse question. But They can do that, by the way, but report is not in Snowflake. How will you answer that? Your OLTP system is not in Snowflake. How will you do that? But if Microsoft has to sell their pitch, they'll say, I have OLTP system also. I have warehouse also. I have ETL tool also. I have report also. All of them have a same data format and they reside in the same vendor. And you purchase my agent and you can talk to every single component within one single platform, within one single window. That is their selling pitch. And this is same is happening with Databricks also, right? They purchase the OLTP layer also and they are purchasing the BI layer also. The core idea is this only, that there will be one single centralized window that will help the users, the business users, to get answers, because the whole point of building the data pipelines, right? They pay us millions, right? They pay all the service-based companies of India in millions, right? Why do they pay that? Because they want to find insights. But the journey from data to insight has been humongous, but now it is decreasing. Right? And these are the pattern which are followed. And to integrate the AI systems, to integrate some context layers, to build the semantic layers also, you will need to be a person who know how to code. If you do not know how to code, bet me you are going to suffer in future. What do you mean by code, right? I'm not telling you to learn any language, right? Just, of course, I'm not telling you to be some specific language pro person, right? Just know how to code. Pick any language. For example, nowadays Python is very famous in the agents also. Every agent, by the way, when you ask him to do an operation, enable the reasoning and the excuses for like how the agent, how the LLM came up with the operation, came up with the conclusion. They write the Python code only. So the back in the days before the AI era, Python was going down, right? Everyone used to have click and drops, but now Python is increasing again. Okay, so my point, my conclusion is the modern data tech stack is collapsing within a year or two. You are seeing it, and I gave you a few examples also. Tool consolidation is happening, GUI consolidation is happening. The artifacts are going to change from buttons to text also, right? So only person who wants to maybe a very pro person in maybe integrating the tools is going to be the person who know how to code, and a person who is tool agnostic. What is tool agnostic? Means I'm not a Power BI guy, or let's say I'm not a Snowflake guy, right? If you are a Snowflake guy or you are just a Power BI guy, right? Specialists are going to be suffering a lot. And that was the point. But you need to know the ins and outs of the tools, right? I cannot tell you that, hey, you're a tool agnostic guy, but you just know the surface of the tool. You just know how Snowflake works, right? I talk to people and they say they know SQL. Whenever I talk to someone, right, I do mentorships also. And when I tell them, hey, the way we work is going to change, you need to be very good in code. Can you tell me how good are you in SQL? They'll rate themselves 4 or 5 out of 5. Right? A few of you are sitting in this call also. But when it asks them questions, question is not, see, when you work with these systems, right, when you're designing enterprise level architecture, if you're a fresher, if you are maybe have 2 3 years of experience, you are good to go. But if you're a senior, the level of problems which you're supposed to solve is far different than what freshers solve, right? If I'm talking to you about SQL, I will not ask you, hey, tell me the difference between select versus group by versus having, where versus having. I will not tell you what is the meaning of index, right? When I say that when you have to build the enterprise level integration because tool consolidation is happening, maybe if you want to even go big in AI in BI, right? Maybe AI, BI, you want to be very pro in that. Every company is releasing their APIs, every company is releasing their MCPs. You will only be able to use them and consume them if you know how to code and if you know how the tool works. But the tool works, I don't mean that, hey, you know how to click a button. I need you to know that how does the tool works actually in the end in the disk. Example, if I talk about SQL, maybe one question could be, do you know in which data structure is the data actually saved when you insert a data into a table? That's a B tree, right? Data structure. Do you know what happens when you create an index on your data? Which data structure it is stored? Because whenever you know these concepts, when you know these details, that's only when we say that, hey, you know the depths, and then you can do a lot of improvements, integrations, and optimizations, right? Whenever I ask someone, hey, tell me how do you optimize a SQL query, they will say, I'll remove the number of columns, number of rows. That's a answer which 12th class person will also give, right? Even in 12th, we have these concepts, we have the SQL. But there's a difference between a person who knows just the surface and this person who has the in-depth knowledge of these tools, right? So that was the purpose that I wanted to highlight also. I keep on highlighting to other people also that, hey, the industry is moving. Every single shift is happening is leading to one single point, that surface is very crowded and tools are crowded. Tools are consolidating ins and out, days and out, days in and days out. The job profiles are also going to consolidate. Okay, I have shown you in the past also when ETL was there, there were DBA admins, DBA developers, database developers. Where are those now? They are gone, right? They moved to data engineers. And when ETL, ELT came, analytics engineer jobs were also came, right? Because we had then unclean data in the warehouses, and then companies said, hey, if we have unclean data, who will do the cleaning? But companies like DBT came and they say, hey, we'll stop data engineer to clean the data, because of course data engineers know Python, and Python doesn't, quote unquote, is the first language that works in warehouses support SQL. DBT came and told, hey, you just use me, I am a SQL native ELT tool. And then when they say you can do transformation using SQL, the jobs changed, because analysts previously used to just build report, but now analysts use SQL to build the pipeline or build the golden layers also. So the jobs keep on changing. The job will keep changing, and this post 2.0, post this ELT era, where like every company is claiming that, hey, you don't need to do migrations, you just need to separate one single centralized repository of the data. The bet is whoever knows the code, whoever know how to work with APIs, whoever know how to work with MCPs, whoever know what is happening in the world, he's going to win, right? And the code first artifacts are going to win. Even in every domain, there is a new company coming who is saying that, hey, we are code first. That is their MSP. That the only difference between me and other companies is I am the code first company, right? For example, I can give you example in every domain. If I talk about transformation world, right? I am not sure if you have heard about this company. There is a company called DLT Hub. Okay, they also got, I think, millions of dollars last to last year, and their only quote is, again, of course, nowadays they're adding agentic in their homepages, but their only code was, see this, DLT open source, built to use used to build data pipelines, uh, build your pipeline first. But yeah, they help you write code to build the pipelines. You cannot, previously you used to use things like Informatica, maybe ADF, maybe use data flows for writing the ETL pipelines. Right? They said that no, use code to write your pipelines and you will win in the post 2.0 era, and they are getting big. Even in BI world, there are multiple companies who are doing very good, right? There's a company called Real Data, very small company, but they're going to be very big within few years because they know that this code first is going to be future, right? See their pitch. Agentic analytics that goes beyond dashboards with NLP, right? Why they are very good in NLP? Because their design pattern was we will build code first assets, right? When you use these kind of companies, you can use it, right? All of them are free of cost only. Everything is just code first. You write code, you get your product. And code means XML, JSON, YAML, Python, SQL, those kind of things, right? They don't have any button. So imagine to build a report, you don't have any button in the tool also. That's the pitch of Rail, and they also got acquired. They also got a big to I think I forgot the numbers, but they got big amount of investment also. Fun fact: the CEO of this company is a friend of mine. So not friend, but he knows me. Okay. Same thing is happening in the warehousing world also. If you have heard, there's a code called ClickHouse. ClickHouse. Let me open. If I talk to two people in today's day and age and I tell them, hey, tell me what are the warehousing tool you know about? They tell, hey, we know Redshift, we know Snowflake, we know Databricks. But they are nowhere close to these tools which are coming in the market, ClickHouse, right? If I show you the benefits of these tools, maybe I should show you the docs. They should have the comparisons also. Yeah, by the way, these are used by billion-dollar companies. Anthropic use it, Google uses it, Lyft use it. A lot of companies are using these warehouses also. But I'll show you why you should be learning these tools. They have a benchmarking, okay? And they benchmark their tool with almost every other product in the market. So I'm just finding that benchmark report. Solutions, not here. Dogs. I think it was here. Give me a second, I'll try to find that. No, these are user stories. Mm, should be, yes, benchmark hub, right? See the benchmark. It's a warehousing tool, very similar to Databricks, very similar to warehouse, but why should people use it? See the performance which they give. This. The number of queries which they tested, by the way, was humongous, but I'll show you the metrics. Wait, what the hell? Where is the report? Yes, ClickHouse versus Snowflake, for example. And if I show you the metrics from here, I will also show you Snowflake ClickHouse versus Databricks, and I'll show you this. See the speed and the claims of the this ClickHouse, right? Uh, Here is also numbers no, not present. Yes. So again, very one simple chart where they are computing the cost versus runtime. That are we expensive or are we like not least expensive from the warehouses, right? These are the other traditional warehousing, Redshift, Databricks, BigQuery, and Snowflake, right? And see, this is the ClickHouse, right? The amount of runtime it takes is far less in every single metric, right? I think this one will also tell you the insights. This is a runtime, right? They ran one single query and just to test how good they are, right? For example, ClickHouse, took them 23 seconds, right? And for BigQuery, it was 38. For Redshift was 64, everything, right? Even in cost, if you see, every single parameter is far better than the other traditional tools. Cost also, right? This is far cheaper than the other tools. So companies nowadays, even though the market in today's day and age of ClickHouse is not that big, but trust me, within few years, it's going to be over collided with the ClickHouse in the market, right? Because they're just claiming, right? They have everything in the page only that we are better than Snowflake, we are better than Databricks, we are better than maybe any cloud quote unquote vendor in terms of cost also, in terms of compute also, right? So these are few of the companies who are betting huge on code first, AI first, agentic first, and there's a new term called interpolarity, right? They are open formats. What is open format? If you work with Snowflake, by the way, you do not know how is your data saved on the disk. Okay, they don't tell you because that's their recipe. But the problem is, whenever a company is investing on warehousing tool, right? If let's say I'm okay, by the way, when in a data ecosystem, right, there are two components. One is storage, one is compute. Changing compute or changing the vendor of compute is very easy. Today I can use ClickHouse. Tomorrow I can switch to some other product, right? Today I can use some cloud function of Google and tomorrow I can shift to Snowflake also. But when a company has to shift or migrate or pick a single storage, that means they have to place their TBs and petabytes of data on that storage. Migrating a storage is very expensive and time consuming. You cannot just pick Snowflake today and move data to Databricks tomorrow because your data will be stored in some specific format. And the bad part of these cloud BI tools like quote unquote Snowflake, they don't even tell you in which file format your data is saved. Okay, so these kind of tools, the interportability means they will tell you that, hey, this is the file format in which we save the data. And by the way, quote unquote, iceberg is the format which is like popping up straight in the market, right? Every company is nowadays trying to follow the iceberg format so that you can save your data anywhere, you can use compute of any tool, it's going to work entirely fine. And if two companies, for example, let's say ClickHouse and some, let's say company ABC exist, and both of them follow iceberg, it's very easy for me as a company to move my data from ClickHouse to maybe company ABC because I know that the table format which is same. But I can't do that with ClickHouse and Snowflake because Snowflake doesn't even tell me in which format the data is saved. Right? Few of the caveats. Okay, so these were few of the pointers. I hope I was able to tell you that what is happening in the world. The two pointers if you want to take from this class. I'll give you three, okay? First is tool consolidation is happening. Every tool is trying to eat the market of other tool. The second thing is GUI is going to disappear. Okay, every modern tool has a GUI now, but it's going to change very soon. Okay, you'll always have centralized single chatbot system, maybe for example, a single chat interface, for example, and that will help you to chat, develop, get insights for that. But of course, there will be need of developer who will be developing the backend part of that. But for the interface for the users and even for the developers, there will be assisted environment with the help of agents. Right now, if you want to work with agents, you'll need to know a lot of skills. I think I have other masterclasses planned also. You can go through that if you want to know how to be upskill. But these were the two conclusions that I wanted to give. Okay, that stack is changing and you should be aware of that because no one on the internet is talking about it. Okay, so I hope we are good for this session. I hope I was able to give you few insights of what is happening. This class was quote unquote not very non-technical person friendly, not very beginner friendly. Okay, and that was a motive also, by the way, that for them I have different classes scheduled. But the point of this class was people who are already aware of what is happening in the world. They know their stuff. They know how to do their job. They should be aware that the type of workload which they handle today might change in the future. Okay, and this, by the way, class, this topic, quote unquote topic, was part of one of the cohort which I teach, right? If in case you do not know, few of you are already there, part of my students, right? I see Krishna here, I see Ashwath here, I see Chaitanya here. They are already part of this cohort. But if in case you do not know, I teach a very detailed cohorts on the same topic, that how do you become a data solutions architect. This was one of the topic which I teach in these classes, but this was, I tried to keep very non-tech here, right? It didn't use the tools also. But the cohort, in this cohort which happens, become a data solution architect, we teach, or I teach 20 plus tools, right? And the core idea of this was, this is, by the way, that you cannot be a tool-centric person in today's day and age. You have to learn multiple tools. You have to know ins and outs of the tool also. Right, so just few minutes I'll spend just to tell you what this course is, so that if in case you are interested, you can buy that cohort also, and we can discuss the same topics in very much more depth in the future, right? uh 70 plus hours of courses. This courses happens on the live cohorts every Saturday, every Sunday. We meet for 2.53 hours. We sit together, I teach the content, and you just consume it. And after the content is like delivered from my side, you just ask questions, right? So every Saturday, Sunday we have classes. Once the classes is done, you get the recordings also on the portal, so that you can have sit and consume the content at your own pace also, right? The USP of why I teach this course, and why you won't find this anywhere else, is because the depth. I have a lot of tools. You build 10 plus projects. You consume the content you read, not through some random AI generated content. I teach you through the white papers. We take the industry led white papers, we take the case studies, and I tell you why this tool is used, how this tool is used, and what are the pros and cons of the tools. It's non-slop AI sloppy context, non-AI sloppy course which we teach. Again, I prepare you for the interviews also. We prepare with the help of 800 plus interviews. We have some interactive labs also, so that it's not theoretical classes, just use different tools to teach you guys. If anyone is interested to know about the curriculum outline, you can find through this website, that's grow datadiscourse.in/courses/data solutions architect. Just to give you a very 1 or 2 minute outline of the course, I cover everything from scratch. We go from data fundamentals. In today's class also, I was not going to fundamentals, like what exactly is ETL or how do we do ETL. That was not covered today, but that is part of this cohort. We talk about fundamentals, then we go about data languages. We learn SQL, Python, advanced queries. We learn about optimizations, governance, everything. We learn about databases, legacy databases also, SSMS, and the niche databases which are coming in the market. For example, Supabase, PostgreSQL, SQLite, all those kind of things we learn here. We learn data warehousing also. I told you guys that there's a new tools coming, so every new tool is integrated in this cohort. I did Snowflake, ClickHouse, DuckDB. We do the comparison. We build some products on top of it also to solidify our learnings also. We learn ETL tools also. So every single stage which exists in data ecosystem is covered in this cohort. Okay, we cover the tools also. We build the CI/CD pipelines. We work with APIs, because I already told you guys, if you have to survive in today's day and world, you need to know coding. You need to know how do we use APIs, because that's the only way you will be consuming the data and building products in maybe within next 1 to 2 years, right? Different set of module for the performance optimization, different set for the data governance, different set for the agentic AI. In agentic AI, we cover how do we use APIs, how do we use RAGs, how do we consume and build a product with the help of MCPs. Everything is covered here. We also cover open source tech stack, because I told you in the last line of my this modern data tech stack, right, that everyone is working very hard to make sure that the data which they work with is interpretable, right? And that's Iceberg. We have some other formats also, right? So we learn pandas, we learn lumpy, we learn great expectations, plotly, openpyxl, daxter. These are few tools for each step in the entire data ecosystem. We cover that here. Then we build some products, and then we do some interview preparation, right? That's a cohort I teach. Few of you are already part of it. If in case you are interested, I will drop the link. You can have a look at this, and then the live cohort is starting on 15th of August. So we can meet there, and then we can have the end-to-end discussion on the same. Okay, so I will be sharing here. Let me drop the link here. I'll also drop a coupon code. I think it's FMS free masterclass student. So if you can use this code, you will get some discount. timings of this cohort, it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, 3 hours of class, but timing is not decided yet. What we can do is you can mail me or you can tell me what is your preferred timings, and then based on that, I will configure the class timings, right? But I'll make sure that this is very user friendly because we have some international students also, so we make sure that they are also able to follow. What kind of jobs do we target based on the course? Typically, Jitesh, the jobs which I am claiming or which the sell pitch which I say is you go on any job interview. If you have done this course, the solution architect, you will be able to crack analytics. You will be able to crack the engineering jobs, right? No matter is it DA, data analyst, is it senior data analyst, is it lead data analyst, right? No matter is it data engineer or senior data engineer or lead data engineer. If you've done this course, I'll make sure that you are confident enough and you know the basics enough that you will be able to crack the interview. I cannot guarantee that I'll get you a job. I'm making it very clear. I don't have any connections. I can't get you a job, but I'll make sure that once you have done the course, I'll upskill you to that level that once you grab a job, once you land into the interview room, then you will be able to crack the job. Okay, so give me a second. Can you tell more about SQL BI? Are you talking about a company SQL BI or is it something else? D also, yes, this course Pooja is specifically for data engineers and data analytics because if you see the tools which we are covering, right? If you come down, yes. So this part, by the way, is databases, the programming languages, the ETL is for the engineers. Plus, I told you, right, the job consolidation and the tool consolidation is happening. That's why you should also know the BI, and that's why it's the BI stuff is also indicated here, right? So this is for the analysts and for the engineers. Okay, is Rayfin worth it? Rayfin is a great library. In case you guys don't know it, Microsoft introduced a new open source library called Rayfin, and they have introduced a new product on top of it also. That's called data apps, right? So it lets you build business applications with the help of open source library. So yes, Aswad, it's a great library to work with. Okay, let me take other pointers. Very well explained. Thanks, Sunil. Thanks, Sonali. This is a benchmark hub. Yes, I was trying to find that only. Yeah, Einstein is now Tableau next. You're right. 5 trend plus Snowflake plus DBT connector. Yes, DBT is covered in this. Fabric is covered in this. Almost every single thing which you see on the screen is covered. So you can just feel free to explore the curriculum for the same. Okay. Is one lake same as lake house? Okay, this I might not be covered in very 1 or 2 lines, but answer is no. Okay, maybe I'll separate. I'll schedule a different class for that, but no, it's not. It's not same. How many sessions we are looking in this course? So I think it takes 2.5 to 3 months, 70 plus hours. But yeah, I think sessions I haven't written here, but yeah, do the math, right? 70 hours and divided by 2.5 or 3 hours, and you'll get the number of sessions, right? What kind of job? This is cleared. Data engineering. Yes, 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 yes. Perfect. Uh, if you have anyone has any question, feel free to drop it in the chat or just write, I want to speak and I'll let you unmute yourself also. Okay. So just drop it in the chat. If you have any question, I'll take it up. I see no questions. Given option to bulk register for your free masterclass. Suhas, point taken. I'll add an option for that. Currently stuck in Power BI dashboarding and reporting. That's not a very ideal case to be in, Murali. So I'll better like suggest you to upskill yourself more, right? Because BI is also already going to console. So there is a term called left shifting, and that's happening in the world, right? It's very good for data engineers, but very bad for the analyst, right? Because engineer can shift left very easily because they know the code, right? But it's tough for analysts to shift left. Shift left means the most right part is report. Before that there is warehouse. Before that there is database, and before that there is my data sources, right? So shift left means industry is going here that we don't need separate tool for BI. We don't need separate tool for warehouse, right? So it's moving to the left side. Will you cover database as well? Yes, database is also covered, Pridul. It's not mentioned. I think I forgot. No, I think let me check. I'll need to talk to my developer. I think it's missed, but yeah, database and Snowflake is covered. Okay. Airflow is not covered. We have covered Daxter because Airflow is also getting replaced by Daxter. I can have a different discussion on that also, but Daxter is covered instead of Airflow. But no matter none the way, right? Both of them are orchestration tool. And if you know one, building DAGs is not that complicated that you will need to have a different kind of design paradigm for to learn Airflow also. Any drawbacks or challenges that this centralized solution like Fabric can face? Yes, there is, Pratik. They're assuming, so Fabric is saying that, hey, bring everything into my single vendor, right? But what if some company do not want to work in a single vendor, right? Everyone wants democracy, right? But why can't I cherry pick? They launch us one single option of commercialization, right? So if I am going into Fabric, my ETL is in one tool, my BI is in one tool. But if I as a company want a different ETL tool, if I like Fabric but I don't like maybe one option of Fabric, you can't do that, right? So that's a cons of using single centralized places also, tools also. Any drawback? Okay, this I covered. Airflow 5 ton HVR. For transformations, Vivek, we are covering DBT and we are covering data flows. And for the orchestration, we are covering Dexter. Thank you for the insight. Thanks, Pragati. Cool. Vivek is saying unmute, so let me try to unmute you. Vivek. Vivek, you might be getting an option to unmute. I sent you a request. I might make you co-host. I'm not sure how it works. I forgot to use the meetings link of the Zoom. So can you tell me if you got any link to speak or something? To practice along your course, we'll need to get free accounts for all. So to practice an account, yes, we need free tools also. Plus, I have created some integrated labs also. Okay. What do I mean by labs? By labs, I mean, for example, if I'm teaching you that, hey, you can, if I teach you, let's say 10 API calls that you can make to Power BI, for that I have built these labs. Okay. What do we mean by labs? Labs mean I'll give you challenges. Challenges could be in case of Power BI API, which I'm talking right now, for example. Give me the list of workspaces, but by API, or maybe trigger a dataset refresh for the API. You don't need to go to Power BI for that. You can directly practice it here. I'll give you question, I'll give you hint, I'll give you validation criteria, and I'll ask you to write the API call here. Of course, you can write the headers, you can write the body. The pros of having Cloud, right? I built it using Cloud only, but it's very helpful. I have used it in the previous cohort and everyone liked it, right? So even if you don't have purchased some Fabric, for example, you will be able to do everything which you can do in Fabric in the interactive labs. Okay, you get to see the solutions also, but of course they are logged for now for the only students which have enrolled for the cohort. Level of depth which we can do in each topic. So my only selling point, Sanjay, is that hey, the only difference is because I know the depth, I can teach you depth. So my only selling point is, hey, I'll tell you how do we go in depth, right? So you can go to the curriculum to get to know what kind of depth I'm talking here. Unmute is, oh, you are still not unmuted. I'm figuring it out. How do we unmute? I think Rishabh also has raised her hand, but let me see. Mm. Vivek, are you getting any option to become co-host?
Now I am able to do that.
Perfect. Hello.
Hey, hi. Actually, I just want to understand, right? Because I saw that, right? There are so many tools are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many depths we are going, right, to? And per session, like 3.5 months is sufficient to complete this one?
I'll tell you. So when I teach this cohort to the previous students also, right? What we do is, see, if you have to be a tool agnostic person, how do you become tool agnostic person? If I can give you say one problem statement, and if I tell you that maybe this is a problem statement that you incrementally load my data, okay, just sending some problem statement,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you open each tool and solve this problem, right? So you're not just doing different things in different tools. The only way to become tool agnostic person, if I can give you any problem statement and you can solve it in any tool, and the fundamentals of every tool remain same, right? That's how we work in this tool also. For example, if I teach Snowflake, ClickHouse, and Databricks, for example, I'll take similar problem statement. I'll try to tell you how do we solve in different tools. So with this paradigm, with this teaching paradigm, we are able to cover everything within the given time span.
So, so in the real time, right, what we are doing, right, we are using the agents and all that for coding. So the
Correct.
same way you will teach us to how to use the agents and all that.
I'll try to keep everything the traditional way, because if I teach you guys, hey, just use agents to do everything, I might not do justice to you guys only, okay? Because I'll abstract everything which happens in the world. Even though agentic AI is part of a module, I'll tell you how do you write a prompt to get stuff done. But the entire cohort is going to be traditional, write the code to get it done.
No,
Okay,
why
so
I'm asking, right, in our company, right, what we are doing, right? So I am trying to write traditionally way, but they want to measure the tokens and all that, right?
oh yes,
Number
that
of
part is
tokens to
covered.
burn, right? So suppose something I want to write, so I will go to the Copilot and write something and bring it
Yes.
in and then run it.
Yes, perfect point. And that part is covered, right? I have a separate written for that also, right? Give me the cost and the logic and where the AI belongs. I have MCPs and I have every single thing related to cost. I think second axis was latency. Everything is covered here, but that is not for entire coding, entire cohort, right? I can't just open cursor and tell you that, hey, see how I'm writing a prompt, I'm getting a pipeline. Hey, see how I'm writing a prompt, I'm getting a dashboard. That's not happening here. I'll just tell you how to do everything traditionally with the help of code, with the help of traditional way of working. But in this module, I'll tell you how do you integrate
Like
the
for example, here the automation with API